We've got some breaking news just into our newsroom, folks. A Florence County Sheriff's deputy has been shot. This happened at the Vintage Place subdivision that's off of Hoffmeyer Road there in Florence.
No word on the deputy's condition right now. We are working for you and have a crew headed to the scene to get more information. We will keep you updated right here and on WPDE.com.
On that, but I'm still trying to make my way to the scene to be able to get a little more information as to what's going on.
All right, and Tanya, you know, earlier you had said, I believe you had tweeted that parents were reporting or neighbors were reporting that they were actually still hearing shots fired. Have you heard any shots fired?
I have not heard shots fired, but I can tell you I was on the phone with someone who is very close to the scene, and I could hear it through the phone. And I said to that person, you need to get off the phone and you need to go someplace where you are safe. I'll get the information away. I don't want to put you in harm's way.
All right, Tanya, and you please be safe too. I know you're stuck in traffic. This is two different departments that we've got injuries reported, 3 deputies and 2 officers. Tanya, we'll let you get back to trying to get to that scene and be very, very careful out there, of course. Thank you so much for that report.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
I just got a text from a friend who lives in Vintage Place. She says her husband, who's a doctor, he cannot get there. This is the scene behind me. This is the closest that we could get, guys. It's right across a cornfield. Vintage Place is a very upscale subdivision in Florence County. Now, this is what she just texted me. She lives in Vintage Place. She says, Tanya, I am scared as heck. I heard they just caught him. I can see the ambulance and cop activity from my upstairs window. There was a suspicious car behind me on the same street. I called the cops to check it out. She has lived in that community for 15 years, and she is afraid. I want you to take a look at all this traffic. This is why it took me so long to get here, because it's so much traffic from people who don't live in Vintage Place or live down Hoffmeyer. They're just all coming to see the scene. Jordy, can you pan back this way so they can see the lights across the street over by the Shell gas station? You can see the sea of blue lights. It has to be, Trey and Summer, hundreds, at least 100 officers out here. I just saw an ambulance come up from Timmonsville, and they are driving in a panic to try and get to the scene. The scene is about a mile away from here in a subdivision just down the street, but this is the closest that we could get to it to get you there. Summer, Trey, we are here at the intersection of Ebenezer Road, North Ebenezer, where it meets Hoffmeyer, and this is the closest that we can get. Now, I have been talking to neighbors in the area who live in Vintage Place subdivision, where the active shooter situation took place, where 5 officers were shot. Neighbors tell me that the suspect is caught. As you said, they're saying they're now able to go out in their yards to see what is going on. Many of them were holed up in their home, simply afraid to go out because they didn't know what was happening. Take a look here. You can still see now officers leaving the scene. We weren't able to see that. They're stopping traffic from going down this section of Hoffmeyer because of the situation that was going on. Now, we're waiting to learn more about the conditions of the officers, but about 5 minutes ago, I did see a medevac, a hospital's helicopter, flying away from the scene. Not sure who they were taking to the hospital, but I did see that. I just talked with a guy who lives in Vintage Place, and he's saying he's desperately trying to get there to check on his wife. His wife is afraid, and she doesn't know what to do or what's going on. I even thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me. They wouldn't let you back at your house because of the situation. How long have you been here waiting to get back home?
I have been sitting here for 30 minutes, and I'm just waiting to get home. And when I get home, Tanya, I'm just going to embrace my kids and hug them.
Thank you so much, Angie. Thank you so much. Guys, that's just the sentiments of one person who lives back in Vintage Place. Jordy, I'm going to walk down this way so they can at least see a little closer. Vintage Place, guys, it has to be not even a mile down this road here, which is Hoffmeyer. All right. You see the ambulances? You see the ambulance and people down there? Everybody's just wanting to know kind of what's going on, waiting to get back. This is a tough one. This is a tough one, guys. I've never in my 22 years of reporting had to cover something so very difficult. I'm patiently waiting, trying to learn more information so that I can bring to viewers, but it's tough. I can tell you it's just tough in the process. They've continued to close Hoffmeyer Road. Highway Patrol still has it closed for now. They're just waiting to find out. I don't know when it's going to be reopened, but it's closed for about a mile stretch from here. There's also an apartment complex right across the road here, and people there can't get back to their homes. I don't think people are so much worried about getting back to their homes. They're just praying for the officers that the other four, that they will make it and pull through. I've also learned that the suspect, as we've already reported, he's in custody. The Florence County Sheriff's Office tells me that he is at the hospital, and I asked them, well, why is he at the hospital? Did he get hurt? They said, no, we took him to the hospital because he's an elderly gentleman, and so we took him to the hospital for evaluation. Summer, Trey.
Tanya, thank you. We know you've got a big heart. We've got your back here at the station, and we certainly are thinking about and praying for these officers and these deputies and their families right now. This is a very tough situation. It's not easy to report on this.
Again, we mentioned earlier that a number of people have been showing up, a number of family members, rather, have been showing up here to the hospital trying to get the latest as to their loved ones' conditions, what's going on. We do know that one of the officers, the city of Florence, a police officer that was killed during this incident, it's unclear if he or she was here at this hospital, but we do know that one officer was killed. And again, we are waiting for Officer Mike Nunn to show up here, who is supposed to be on his way here any minute now to give us the latest as to what's happening. But again, the pretty steady stream of traffic that's been flowing in and out of the emergency room area here at McLeod Regional Medical Center. And we will continue to monitor the scene here as things unfold and more details become available to us. Reporting live in Florence, Devon Romming, ABC 15 News.
The officers were taken to McLeod Health and also to Carolina's hospital system.
Right, absolutely. ABC 15's Nick Papantonis is live on Facebook at Carolina's hospital system in Florence, and we just learned that hospital is on lockdown.
Guys, we are at the Carolinas hospital system here in Florence. We know that this hospital is involved somehow, if you're just joining in this shooting, that at least 5 officers have been shot. Again, our Tanya Brown, the other at the scene, is reporting that at least one of them is dead. We are waiting for a press briefing to start, but what we know right now is that the hospital is on a temporary lockdown. We don't know how long this lockdown is going to last. We do know that they are treating patients of some kind here. They are treating at least one patient. We don't know if it's the suspected shooter, if it's the police officers that were shot, if it's someone else that was involved in the scene somehow.
Now we're going to check in now live with ABC 15's Devon Romming, who is live at McLeod Regional. Devon.
I'm Major Mike Nunn, Public Information Officer with Florence County Sheriff's Office. This is a hard and difficult day for us. We do not have all the details at this time, as the incident has just concluded. But what we do know at this time is that earlier today, at approximately 4 p.m., investigators with the Florence County Sheriff's Office attempted to serve a search warrant on a residence in Vintage Place subdivision in Florence County. Suspect inside the residence opened fire on the investigators. 3 of our deputies were shot. The suspect continued to fire on other officers who responded to the scene to render aid to the wounded. Officers from the Florence City Police Department responded to assist, and several of their officers were shot as well.
3 Florence County deputies and 2 city officers have been shot.
It has to be more than 100 officers on scene.
You never know when you leave your home if you're going to return home. Those officers and deputies who are willing and have been willing and are continue to be willing to put their self in harm's way.
Pray for the family who lost the bravest police officer that I have ever known.
7 officers shot, and one of them, a Florence police officer, is dead tonight. We learned a short time ago that the officer who died is 52-year-old Terry Caraway. He had just received his 30-year service pin from the department.
This all started when investigators say a man shot at deputies who were just doing their jobs. They were trying to serve a search warrant at a home in the Vintage Place subdivision. That's off Hoffmeyer Road in Florence. We have team coverage tonight, and we begin with ABC 15's Tanya Brown, who's been on scene all evening. And Tanya, you've spent more than 20 years working with these law enforcement officers, and we know this is a tough night for you and a lot of people in our community.
Trey, it is, and just to hear you say his name, Terrence Caraway, just to give you, my relationship with Terrence was very close. He was also close with my husband. He wanted us to help him with his football camp that's coming in a few weeks. We are closer to the scene tonight. You can see the police cars down there. They're still blocking the entrance into Vintage Place. That's where all the shootings happen. I've just learned that the Ridgeland County Sheriff's Office out of Columbia, they are taking the lead on this investigation, and they're actively down there still investigating and gathering what clues and information they have. Law enforcement officers from across the state and those over in North Carolina and across the nation are mourning the loss tonight of Terrence Caraway, and they're grieving and hurting for the other officers who are hurt. I can't imagine what it was like earlier this afternoon when those 911 dispatchers got the call they received that 7 officers had been shot.
Officer down at this time.
That's the sound of men and women in blue answering the call. This time they were responding to their own. 7 of them, they say a civilian was shot too.
We know that at times this is a dangerous job, and our deputies readily and bravely accept that challenge.
About 4 p.m., Major Mike Nunn with the Florence County Sheriff's Office says deputies were attempting to serve a warrant here at this home in the Vintage Place subdivision off Hoffmeyer Road in Florence. They say a man started shooting.
And the suspect was still firing.
3 Florence County Sheriff's deputies were shot. 3 Florence police officers were shot. Another Florence police officer died.
Today will mark a very horrific day in the annals of the Florence Police Department. Today we lost a good friend of mine, an officer that I've known for 30 years.
At one point, while officers were trying to help the shot officers, investigators say the shooter shot at them.
A lot of the officers don't get the respect that they deserve. This situation's hit home.
Investigators say the shooter remained barricaded with children in what would be a standoff that lasted 2 hours. The children are okay. The shooter is in the hospital. And there's a group of men and women in blue with hearts the same color. Terrence Caraway was a great officer who loved the city of Florence. He worked for many years with the Police Athletic League. He worked with the Alliance for Youth with Florence City Councilwoman Pat Gibson Highmore. His heart was always in the right place, and he would do whatever he could to help young people. It's so unfortunate tonight that his life ended just a few blocks away from here as he was just trying to do what he's done for 30 years, and that is to protect the citizens of Florence. For now, live in Florence along Hoffmeyer Road, Tanya Brown, ABC 15 News.